This week's Bears-Patriots matchup features two rookie quarterbacks looking for a little bit of help and both having some real struggles around them. We'll see if the Bears or Patriots can find some real answers this week on our crossover Thursday Locked On Bears, Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into today's edition of Locked On Bears or Locked On Patriots here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Lorin Cox, the host of Locked On Bears, alongside Mike Debate of Locked On Patriots. And we want to thank you for making Locked On Bears or Locked On Patriots your first listen of the day. Our crossover podcast is presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. On the show today, planning to get into with this matchup between two rookie quarterbacks, two teams struggling a little bit right now, but I think one came in with a lot higher expectations than the other. And so as a result, I think there's a little bit more pressure on the Chicago Bears side, and the Patriots, on the other hand, can find a way to try and get a win against this team and build up some confidence on their end. Mike, I wanted to start there with New England. Obviously, at 2-7, no one's thinking they're going to come around and, turn into some contender or anything. So, what is New England looking to get out of a game like this? What can they accomplish on Sunday?
Well, right now, Lorin, I would probably say that the Patriots are just looking to get anyone to be able to help Drake Maye out a little bit. Look, Drake had a solid game against the Tennessee Titans last week. Didn't exactly light up the scoreboard the way a lot of people would expect when you talk about good performances. Attempted 41 passes, threw for only 206 yards, did run for 95 yards, all on scrambles. So there were elements and bright spots in his game. 11.82 seconds was the time that the Patriots fans held their breath on Sunday as he scrambled and evaded defenders, finally found Ramondre Stevenson in the end zone, ties the game, and it looked like momentum was on the Patriots' side, but in overtime, throwing a back-breaking interception, and unfortunately, the Patriots found themselves on the outside looking in, but really it goes deeper than that. The passing game is struggling to find options. Guys like Demario Douglas and Kendrick Bourne and Kayshon Boutte, receivers that have shown flashes of being able to help, haven't been consistent enough to say, okay, to Drake Maye, this is a guy that can help you out and a security blanket that you can go to. The only one he's been able to rely on every single game that he's taken snaps under center or started is Hunter Henry, their tight end. They're obviously problems along the offensive line. I know the Bears fans can relate to that when it comes to Caleb Williams. I'm sure we'll talk about that in due time. But until those things improve, it's very difficult to see the New England Patriots being able to get anything they need.
Is there a fear in New England, certainly among Patriots fans, that the lack of supporting cast around Drake Maye is going to either limit or stunt his development or lead him to some kind of bad habits? Or has there been enough of the flashes where you feel like, okay, he's finding ways to overcome his circumstances and not let them make him a worse quarterback?
That's a great question, and I really do believe it's the latter rather than the former. I think they've seen enough flashes. I think they've seen enough in his tendencies and in his capabilities and the growth he's made as a collegiate quarterback and then going into becoming a pro-level quarterback to let them know that he's headed in the right direction. Obviously, if you're looking for immediate success, if you're looking for immediate wins, yeah, there's an element right now of New England Patriots fans that are probably looking at this receiving group or this collection of talent around him and saying it's not going to happen this year. But the one thing that I see from Drake is growth each and every game. His footwork is much crisper, much cleaner. His eyes are matching his feet when he's going to make throws. He's leading the shotgun with his left foot as opposed to his right, which he did in college, gives himself more protection. There is still the penchant to try to force the ball down the field. Those are rookie moments. He's going to have those, but he's taking the checkdowns. He's looking at the entire field. He's utilizing the middle of the interior, or really, I think, the intermediate parts of the field much better than he did as a member of the North Carolina Tar Heels. So I think there's enough there for Patriots fans to say he's headed in the right direction. I don't think the talent around him is so bad that it's going to cause him any difficulty, but if you're looking for a whole lot of improvement from game to game each and every week, yeah, this is probably not the collection that you want to go into 2025 with.
I'm curious how his legs play into this in terms of the Patriots offense, because this Bears defense has gotten gashed in the running game the last 2 weeks, but like specifically by running backs. They didn't really get scrambled on a ton by Jaden Daniels or Kyler Murray, two great running quarterbacks. They held that part down, but they couldn't stop the running game of either the Commanders or the Cardinals. And I look at New England the last couple of weeks, and it's really been Drake Maye's legs opening up their running game, while Ramondre Stevenson hasn't necessarily done a ton. So is most of that him creating plays on design passing plays where he scrambles, or do they do some read option stuff in there, or how is this Patriots running game sort of taking shape?
To be honest, I think a lot of it has been by default. New England's pressure, the pressure that they're allowing along their offensive line has been extensive, and it's been tremendous. And it's really been a lot for quarterbacks to overcome. Now, you look at a guy like Jacoby Brissett, who started the season as the Patriots starting quarterback and really was for the first few weeks. His lack of ability to do what Drake Maye does, which is go off script, roll out, make things happen with your legs and extend plays or make plays happen when there's nothing at all there, led him to take a great number of sacks. Really, I think led him to take an extra second or two in terms of trying to shed the ball. The Patriots were very slow coming out of that. So when you look now at what May is able to do, obviously he's going to take off and he's going to run when he sees no options in the field. And that's where you're seeing a lot of these chunk runs, these 17-yard, 26-yard runs that allow Drake to be able to make plays happen. So in a lot of ways, I think what you're seeing from Drake Maye is adapting to the environment around him. Alex Van Pelt's style is to incorporate an outside zone running scheme, which Ramondre Stevenson, under normal circumstances, is very good at running. But again, when you don't have the guys up front giving you the proper run blocking that you need, doesn't matter who you got back there. It's going to be very tough to find traction. And that's one of the big reasons why Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson, and also Jermichael Hasty, who rounds out that running back core, have yet to be able to find the traction they need to really be a sound running game and a complement to Drake Maye's style. To be honest, Lorin, they really haven't had it since week 1 against the Cincinnati Bengals. It was really the last time you saw this running game really take off and look the way it should.
Real quick, before we switch over to the Bears side of things here, I did want to touch briefly on the Patriots defense here. I know they've had some games where they've given up a bunch of points, but how much of that is about, a lack of talent, and how much of that is, the offense turning the ball over and not giving the defense any support, so they just keep getting worn down until they break because they can't stop a team all game long?
Yeah, I think that definitely factors in. Look, you do not want to give your opposing offense an opportunity to beat you, and the Patriots defense has taken several hits when it comes to their personnel. Obviously, Matthew Judon no longer their top pass rusher. He's off in Atlanta. Christian Barmore going down as a result of blood clots. He hasn't played all season long. That's a big loss for the Patriots up front, because you're taking a guy that normally takes on the double team and acts as your facilitator on that defensive line. He's out of the lineup. Joshua Uche recently traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. Jabril Peppers has had off the field problems at the safety position. He's one of your key cogs in the middle. He hasn't been there. And Juwan Bentley, your team captain in the middle part of that defense at the linebacker position, is out for the year with an injury as well. So all of those personnel groupings have sustained significant hits to where they were last year. It's going to make things a lot more difficult on the defense. So yes, while the offensive lack of output is certainly a concern for the defense, who doesn't necessarily have the type of support that they need, it really has been about the next men up to be able to do what the guys that are no longer in the lineup are able to do. Some of them have stepped up, but you need to see a lot more of it, and it needs to be consistent.
I'm glad you mentioned injuries, because that's one of the big storylines for the Bears this week. At a few different key positions, it's getting concentrated there. So we'll turn the table over and look at some of the big storylines for Caleb Williams and Chicago as we continue our crossover Thursday Locked On Bears, Locked On Patriots podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This crossover Thursday podcast is brought to you by our friends at Zbiotics. Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. And it's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. And just remember to make Zbiotics your first drink of the night, then drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Go to zbiotics.com/lockedonnfl to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use our promo code LockedOnNFL at checkout. Zbiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedonnfl and use the promo code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. All right, continuing our crossover Thursday, Locked On Bears, Locked On Patriots podcast. Lorin Cox from Locked On Bears alongside Mike Debate from Locked On Patriots. And Mike, I'm sure there's plenty for us to get into here about Caleb Williams, but I just wanted to start with a brief sort of Bears injury update. Their left tackle missed practice on Wednesday. Their right tackle missed practice on Wednesday. Their backup left tackle missed practice on Wednesday. And they're going to have to do some moving around on the offensive line. If those guys are not able to go, they're still missing one of their starting safeties, Jaquan Brisker. They've had some injuries on the defensive line as well. They're really settling into an injury problem right now at a number of different positions, plus some real off-the-field controversies after a couple of losses where maybe there's some locker room questions here, and it feels like this is as vulnerable of a Bears team right now for the Patriots to try and take advantage of, and then a lot of pressure on the Bears that are like, if they lose this one, there's some real talk about the job security of head coach Matt Eberflus.
Absolutely. And look, Patriots fans can definitely relate to job security and difficulties with the head coach. We just went through it last year here with arguably the greatest to ever do it. Look, the New England Patriots simply were not putting out a product on the field that was worthy of their legacy. And Bill Belichick ended up paying the ultimate price on that. And no longer the head coach here in Drake Maye comes in. So with the Chicago Bears, I understand fans and media, and definitely the players alike are looking for that type of validation that we're headed in the right direction, not just on the field in personnel and at the quarterback position, but in the coach's room as well. Those two things need to gel and they need to come together. And look, the Patriots, if they don't see significant improvement over the course of the next 2 or 3 seasons, they may be right back in that circumstance, wondering if they made the right hire as well. So can certainly understand where it comes from with Matt Eberflus. But in my opinion, Lorin, and correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously you know the Bears much better than I do, Caleb Williams, similar to a lot of young quarterbacks this year, really impressive stretches of play. There have been some difficulties with throws, some decision-making questions, but that's normal to happen with any rookie quarterback. But his pass protection has been very poor. Been sacked 29 times. Usually that means that he's having to evade immediate pressure. He's got excellent mobility to do it, but you can only sustain that for so long. Do you believe that one of the keys to maybe saving Matt Eberflus's job or helping the Bears move in the right direction this week is to get Caleb better protection against that Patriots defensive front?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what this offense needs to really get going again. And some of that is, there's going to be some kind of change to the lineup here, depending on the health of those guys. They may end up moving their right guard to right tackle to fill in at right tackle, and then bringing a right guard off the bench and maybe a backup left tackle to fill in all those injury holes. So moving guys around sometimes can be a good thing if you get better talent on the field, and sometimes can be a bad thing if you're kind of breaking up some of that continuity and cohesion that you are maybe starting to build up front there. And then a lot of it's on the offensive coordinator as well. You've got to give your young quarterback options. If he's doesn't have any time to hold on to the ball, he's got to have then quicker passes to throw to. He's got to have, hot routes and check downs and maybe a screen to get behind a pass rush. I mean, whatever you have to do, find ways to give your quarterback some kind of answers if the pocket can't hold up. You can't have plays that take a few seconds to develop downfield. You got to be able to give him a menu of things he can do at the line of scrimmage. I think that's been probably the single biggest factor for Caleb Williams. There have been a couple times when he holds onto the ball too long and tries to extend a play longer than he can get away with extending it, but I think that's a bit lower on the concern level there, and it's more about everything around him, and that's where it gets the concern, because everything was supposed to be much better around Caleb Williams than the other rookie quarterbacks. He was supposed to have receivers and a defense and all this stuff that was supposed to make his life easy, and lo and behold, life is getting pretty difficult for him right now in Chicago.
Absolutely. A very good point. And especially when it comes to, looking at the types of struggles that the Patriots' own rookie quarterback is having right now. It sounds like a lot of synergy going on right now between New England and Chicago. Before we flip things over and I ask you a question about the defense, Lorin, this New England Patriots run defense right now continues to take on water, and they allowed the Tennessee Titans to pick up 167 yards on the ground and allowing a 4.3 yard average. If the Bears are coming coming into this offensively, and they're worried about the type of pass protection that Caleb Williams would have. From a Patriots perspective, how worried should my fan base be right now about Chicago's running game being able to keep the Patriots off balance?
Yeah, this one's a little bit hard to pin down for me because for like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks there, it felt like the Bears had found their answers in the running game, and it had really kind of locked in. But just this past week against the Arizona Cardinals, it felt like the Bears were back to square one, back to how they struggled in the running game the first couple weeks of the season, then figured it out, and now they struggled again against Arizona, and it felt like they were kind of running into some of the same issues from early on this year. So I think they look at this game as the opportunity to say, okay, we had a little blip in the road, but need to get the running game back going again against New England the way they had earlier in the season, because otherwise they fall into this trap where they did against against the Cardinals this past week and earlier in the season against the Colts, where Caleb Williams throws over 40 times in this game and over 50 times in a game earlier this season. You don't want your quarterback throwing that much, but when you can't run the ball very effectively and you fall behind on the scoreboard, you end up leaning back into that. But I think the Bears defense will do a good enough job against the New England Patriots offense to hold them down, that the Bears won't at least get behind on the scoreboard and feel like they have to abandon the running game, and can, even if they're not winning, they can still trust that the ground game is, that there's enough ball game left and the game is close enough that they can run the ball and trust that throughout the course of a full 60 minutes.
Very good point. And that kind of leads me very nicely into my final question for you, because you kind of danced around this in the previous segment when you asked about Drake Maye and his ability to extend plays with his legs in the running game, and how does that facilitate. Chicago's defense has not been overly impressive statistic-wise when it comes to defending against the run. But once again, this New England Patriots ground game has fallen into disrepair. That running back core combined for 15 yards on 12 carries last week against the Tennessee Titans. Again, looking for a situation where the Chicago defense may be licking its chops trying to get after this Patriots running game. They may look at that and say, yeah, we got a good opportunity. If we can isolate Drake Maye, we can keep that running game in check. How do you think the Bears will try to defend this Patriots running game? Do they see opportunities where they can win these matchups? And how much easier does that make life on their pass defense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of concern right now about this in Chicago because their nose tackle, Andrew Billings, is going to have surgery on his pec. They haven't put him on injured reserve, at least by the time that we're recording this podcast. But he's definitely not going to be available this week, and not going to be available for, a lot of the upcoming future here. And he's been a real star for them on the interior, occupying double teams and just taking up a lot of space so that the linebackers can run a little bit more freely behind him. But last week against the Cardinals, without him and without Montez Sweat due to injury, the Bears got demolished in the trenches, and linebackers were getting free runs to the second level, so the linebackers couldn't stop anything. And so there's an opportunity here for the Patriots offensive line to settle in a little bit here if they can get some early confidence in this group, because I think the Bears are still on their heels a little bit defensively up front and want to make sure they can stop this. But if they can keep New England to be a little bit more one-dimensional, then the secondary can play a lot more aggressive, and that's when you see this team generates a lot of turnovers, and they can do some real damage here and make life hard for Drake Maye.
Absolutely. Well, you did make some fans in New England, I can guarantee you, Lorin, when you mentioned that the Patriots offensive line being able to settle in a little bit and maybe find a rhythm. That's something that has not happened. 8 different starting combinations for the Patriots. That's a lot. It's a lot to go through. It's a lot to absorb. So this New England Patriots team right now is looking for anything to be able to find when it comes to continuity on the O-line. Maybe they find it on Sunday.
Yeah, the Bears are going to probably have a new offensive line combination of their own too. And how those new offensive line combinations perform this week is going to be one of the real keys to victory in this game. So as we continue our Crossover Thursday podcast, we'll touch base on what each team needs to do to make sure they're going to come away from this one with a victory on Sunday. That's coming up next on our Crossover Thursday Locked On Bears, Locked On Patriots podcast. This episode of Locked On Bears and Locked On Patriots is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. Get ready to tackle all of the NFL action, because new customers are going to get $5 new customers, if you bet $5, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So if you want to bet $5 on this Bears-Patriots game, where the Bears are favored by 6.5 points on the point spread, the money line is Bears minus 270 straight up, or the Patriots plus 220 if you want to pick the upset straight up. And the over-under is expecting a low-scoring game at 38.5 points. a $5 bet on any of those, you get your bet right, and FanDuel is going to add $150 in bonus bets right into your account. The FanDuel Sportsbook app even gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL as well, all in one place. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with those $150 in bonus bets with your first winning $5 bet. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Our crossover Thursday Locked On Bears, Locked On Patriots podcast is also brought to you by Prize Picks, the better way to play daily fantasy sports, because Prize Picks puts you in complete control. Unlike some of the other daily fantasy platforms where you're setting a lineup and you're competing with 500 other lineups, and you only really win if you get first or second place in that group, with Prize Picks, it's just you versus the Prize Picks stat projections. You pick at least 2 players and whether they will perform more or less than their Prize Picks projection, and you can win up to 100 times your money. So Prize Picks has Caleb Williams against the Patriots at 213.5 passing yards, or Drake Maye against the Bears at 203.5 passing yards. You make a few Prize Picks, you can win big. Download the app today and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Whether your $5 lineup is right or wrong, that's okay. Either way, the Locked On NFL promo code is going to get you an instant $50 with your picks at Prize Picks. Run your game. Thanks for tuning in to our Locked On Bears, Locked On Patriots crossover podcast today. Crossover Thursday is presented by Prize Picks. Download the app and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Lorin Cox from Locked On Bears here with Mike Debate from Locked On Patriots, looking at some of the keys to victory for both of these teams. Mike, I think we've been focusing a lot on the trenches for good reason here. Does it apply the same on both sides of the ball for New England, or do you have more confidence in that defensive line than you do in the offensive line there?
Well, honestly, I do have more confidence in the defensive line than I do the offensive line, and that's simply because of personnel and continuity. But at the same time, you look at this defensive line, and the Patriots have not been able to stop the run. They haven't been able to consistently be a force up front and find players that can come up and help Devon Godchaux, who's really been a one-man show when it comes to run stoppage and it comes to being a force in the front. Christian Ellis, Raekwon McMillan have had moments, but they haven't been consistent enough for the Patriots to say, okay, well, they found their guy that can take some of the pressure off of Devon. So if the Bears are looking to take advantage, if they can win battles up front, they get a very good chance to keep this Patriots defense on its heels and really gain some pretty big yardage, most importantly on the ground. But they do have the ability to beat the secondary if they can put a lot of pressure on this team. On the offensive line, obviously, it's about limiting pressure. It's about Drake Maye and giving him the opportunity to step into his throws, make throws from the pocket, and be able to make things happen. Also, the Patriots are going to need to get consistent run blocking to be able to open up that running game and utilize the outside zone looks that Alex Van Pelt wants to incorporate with Ramondre Stevenson. And then on third down with guys like Antonio Gibson that can take pressure off. So a lot is going to be opened up for the Patriots if those two lines come to play. If they can do their jobs, yeah, the Patriots always have a puncher's chance, and I think they will have a puncher's chance in this one. If they don't, going to be a long afternoon in the Windy City for the Patriots.
So, like, what does it look like? Like, what does a Patriots win look like? Like, if we fast forward to the game's over and the Patriots won by whatever score, what does it take for them? What would they have had to have done in that game that succeeds, that puts them to that path to a victory?
First and foremost, they need to win the battle on both sides of the line of scrimmage, control the game from both sides of the line. If they do that, the Patriots always have an opportunity to win. They need to be able to control the time of possession. They also need to keep the flags out of the officials' hands. This is one of the more penalized teams in the league right now. They need to play smart, consistent football, not beat themselves, and they need to protect the ball. They really need to avoid the turnovers that have been so costly for this team. So even though it sounds so rudimentary, Lorin, even though it sounds like it's very basic, these are the things that the Patriots need to do to win. But if they are winning and they are doing these intangibles, it involves a strong running game. It involves Drake Maye taking shots down the field, stretching the field with some of the pass catchers that he has, and some of them can do it, like Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, and even a Tyquan Thornton, who's kind of been forgotten about in this offense. He's got the speed to do it. If he starts hitting these guys and then utilizing the red zone for short runs from Ramondre Stevenson and short passes from Hunter Henry. That's how this team can win. And on the defensive side of the ball, if they can use Christian Gonzalez to lock down one of the top options that the Bears have in terms of a pass catcher, whether it be DJ Moore, Roma Dunes, it could be Keenan Allen, whoever the Patriots decide to focus in on, other members of the secondary have to step in and do their jobs as well. All of that has to come together. It sounds like a major stew with a lot of ingredients, but that's the type of product that the Patriots are putting out right now. Going to take a complete team effort to win a ball game.
From the Bears side, I think there's, even after they've struggled the last couple of weeks, I think there's a confidence level that the Bears defense will be able to get a couple turnovers off of Drake Maye and the Patriots offense and generally hold them, under 20 points at a maximum there, right? Like thinking probably in the, 13, 14, 17 point range is where this Bears defense can hold them. So then the real question for Chicago then is, can Caleb Williams and this offense rediscover some of the things they were doing well a month ago and get back to just like non-messy looking offense? They just haven't been able to consistently find a rhythm and keep him upright and clean and let him operate and get the ball to all those weapons you were talking about. Like the whole point of trying to put Caleb Williams in this team was, okay, you give him Moore and Dunze and Allen and Kmet and DeAndre Swift. Like he's got some of the best weapons you could hope for any rookie quarterback coming into. And they just haven't been able to find ways to really maximize that talent and get the most out of him and get the most out of them and put those guys all in position to succeed. But like the talent is there. It's just about getting more out of it. And I think they look at this Patriots defense as something that's a little bit more vulnerable than the last couple of playoff caliber teams they face, and that this can be the game to kind of get right and right the ship a little bit before they got a bunch of divisional games coming up on the schedule that they're trying not to look ahead to. But if the Bears don't find a way to get the offense going against the Patriots, if they find a way to lose to a 2-win New England Patriots team, there's some real smoke around Matt Eberflus's hot seat right now. The Bears have never fired a coach in season, and I still think a loss to the Patriots wouldn't have him lose his job, but they might have to start firing some kind of assistant, some kind of scapegoat opportunity here midseason, because this would be as close to rock bottom as it feels like the Bears season could get at this stage of the process.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. And it's amazing to hear that consistently week to week, that losing to the Patriots could be a catastrophic thing for opposing teams for so long. Back to when my predecessor, Mark Schofield, had this chair and this microphone talking about the New England Patriots being, a team that was always formidable. It's tough. It's tough to hear. But at the same time, you're absolutely right on the money. And I agree. I think this week is going to be a very difficult week for the Pats. I think they're out talent matched when it comes to both sides of the ball by Chicago. It's going to be whether or not the Patriots can play up to their level and whether or not they can force Chicago into some mistakes. To me, that's the only way they come out of the Windy City with a win this weekend.
And the over-under was, I think, 38.5 points. So I'm expecting low-scoring, ugly football. You also mentioned penalties. The Bears are also a heavily penalized team. So I think whether the Patriots or the Bears come out with more points on Sunday, the referees may end up being the real winners of this game on Sunday. They're going to get a lot of spotlight in action time. But I feel like a winner getting to have you on the Crossover podcast with us today, Mike. Thanks so much for being a part of this and keeping Patriots fans up to date 5 days a week over on Locked On Patriots. Go check out his show. Make it your first listen for all you Patriots fans out there or Bears fans who want to learn more about the Bears opponent this week. Likewise, I'm here on Locked On Bears 5 days a week and hope you all keep making it your first listen. And check out the other teams' podcast for your second listen each and every day. We'll be getting you ready for the Bears-Patriots matchup with one final Friday podcast, and then we'll break it all down for you again on Monday once it's all done. So for Mike Debate from Locked On Patriots, I'm Lorin Cox from Locked On Bears, and we will talk to you guys all again tomorrow.